wisdom, but I want to get my
Mhm.
challenge over with at the end so I can use the
Hey, I get
bathroom
it.
and go to sleep and do whatever I need to do.
I get
Okay.
it. We're doing this for your butthole. I respect it.
Hunter Patterson took over for the athletic role after James Edwards left, and there was a long gap without coverage from the athletic, and that was my favorite source of Pistons writing at that point, was with James. And so big shoes to fill, but Hunter Patterson has done a fantastic job. We're going to be talking about his article that came out May 15th, that would have been yesterday, about free agent targets, Bobby Portis, Naz Reid, a handful of other players. There's some that we're going to talk about more than the others because obviously some players are more realistic than others, and some players have a short case, some players have a long case. Number one on his list is Naz Reid. I feel like we've talked a lot about him, but I would love to talk more about him. He's only going to be 26 to start next season, and he's one of those guys that you want on your team because he knows that he can be a number two. I mean, in Minnesota, he's kind of stuck in that super six-man role. In Detroit, he could flourish into an all-star, especially in this weaker Eastern Conference.
He's the perfect pick and roll partner for any modern point guard, especially for a guy like a Cade Cunningham. The thing that's great about a Naz Reid is he's a rim runner, but he's also a really good three-point shooter. He's someone that can space the floor. He's someone that brings a fabric of unpredictability to the offense. And then on the defensive side, you're getting a stalwart big who's really versatile, who could defend on the perimeter as well as in the interior. I think he's like if you are to put another type of big alongside of Jalen Duren, I think he's like the exact archetype because you need someone who can space the floor, but also would be a really good roamer as a defender and kind of come in and mess some stuff up, kind of similar to how Evan Mobley and Jared Allen played in Cleveland. I think he's going to be one of the most highly sought after free agents in the league this year, just because he's someone that makes literally every single team possible better. But like, if there is like a guy that like you're going to potentially let one of these veteran free agents walk for, so you can go and like potentially sign someone, it's Naz Reid, just because he inherently raises your floor, but he also raises your ceiling. And again, you want to talk about the perfect guy to put in pick and roll action with Cade Cunningham or Jaden Ivey or any of the Pistons ball handlers or primary curators. Naz Reid's like the dictionary definition of the perfect pick and roll partner.
Yeah, and Brennan, I want to hear your take on this. I just want to bring up a stat I found on Shot Creator. In the playoffs, from the three-point line, he's in the 92nd percentile in three-point percentage at 46.7%. But he's also in the 91st percentile of true shooting at 68.1. So he can do it from everywhere. And you watch him with his dribble moves, he can create. He sometimes gets to show it, but when you're on Minnesota and it's kind of leaning towards Julius Randle having the ball, leaning towards Anthony Edwards having the ball, he's fortunate that he can also play off the bench to kind of have that time to do his thing. But if we were able to see, what would you say, like 35, 36 minutes a night, it would be a completely different story.
Yeah. Initially, before the kind of semi-brawl happened, I was like super, super high on this move actually coming true. But when the brawl happened, I said, well, we can count out Naz Reid coming to Detroit kind of playfully, but I mean, like you guys said, man, he might be the most sought after non-all-star free agent this year. So, what would the Pistons have to like let go to get him? Obviously, Beasley, Hardaway, Schroeder.
I think you get away with
Schroeder definitely.
Okay.
And then they would probably have to bring back whichever one they can get. So probably they would have to pursue bringing back Hardaway and risk not bringing back Beasley. If I were to guess, is probably how they would have to make the money work. I will say this article was updated candidates wise to take into fact that Cade is going to be an all NBA selection this summer, and that is going to affect the salary cap. So this is something that, that Hunter did lay out. And he did say that like, they would also have to like essentially like let go of the rights of like their free agents essentially. So, they would still have to they would probably have to make a trade of some form to be able to make it work where they could have Naz Reid and a Malik Beasley and or a Schroeder or a Hardaway. But I think again, if there's like it's a calculated risk thing, right? And I think if there's a guy that you take that risk for on like a future bet, but also just like on like a production helps you win on a more consistent level, as awesome as Malik Beasley is, this is the type of player you let him walk for.
Well, in theory, can't you use your salary on those two and then do a sign and trade with Tobias just to kind of give Minnesota another reliable option if they have to take something on?
Well, the only thing is that they have some decisions coming as well. So
Yeah.
Minnesota, they have Julius Randle. They actually have to have conversations about this summer of wanting to bring him back. And even then, part of the reason why Minnesota can't bring him back is because, and part of why they made that cat trade to begin with was because they were in so dire need of financial flexibility, and they just don't have it. So whatever they could do in some form of move is probably going to be limited, because once you get into those aprons, which I know a lot of people get confused, the crux of them is the higher apron you're in, the less you can do as a roster, as far as like flexibility with what you can take on in contracts. Essentially, your hands are further tied the deeper you go into those aprons.
Yeah.
So it'll all depend on what they want to do. But I mean, I don't know about you guys. If I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, this might sound like a hot take, but I think they might want Julius Randle back. Maybe.
I think you're seeing that they definitely would, based on what's going on this
Yeah.
playoffs. Oh, was that sarcasm? Guys, you guys probably
Just
noticed
a little bit.
I'm really bad and I'm gullible. And I like to do the things over text when I say, oh, I'm so bad at texting because I can never tell sarcasm. I can't do it in conversations as well. So
Honestly,
the sarcasm is 4K, Leggy.
Yeah.
The stream's only in 720.
It should have a sarcasm like symbol for text. I will say that. It should be something by now. It's 2025.
Yeah, they should let you use italics.
Something. But in terms of Nas Reed's game, forget the contract stuff for a second. In terms of his game, I do agree that he is the perfect big next to Duren offensively. So like that pairing with him spacing and Duren in the paint, that pairing would be nasty because Reed is a decent passer too. Defensively, 36 minutes a game. I don't know if he is up to that yet. I do know in short spurts, like the minutes he plays now, he's passable defensively, but him being a starting four, I don't think he could do what Tobias did this year. But honestly, he's only 25, 26 or something, so he is pretty young. And I do think coming to a defensive infrastructure like Detroit, maybe he can reach that level kind of full time. Yeah, offensively, that pairing with the Pistons would be just nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, if they
Super
were to
nasty.
keep, if they were able to keep Tobias Harris on, I would argue you probably wouldn't have to play Nas Reed 35, 36 minutes a night. You could probably get away with playing him 25, 30 plus minutes. And,
Yeah.
once you get to playoff time, you'd probably have to rock it a little bit more.
Fair.
But don't worry, Leggy. I made sure to get you set up. If I ever am in one of those moments where I'm going to be a little sarcastic, I'll just pull up the sarcasm alert.
Sean, I appreciate it. You guys got me like no one else got me. So, similar situation, or I guess player. I don't want to say similar situation. Kind of the light of Nas Reed is Bobby Portis to me. It feels like Bobby Portis is a player that would be kind of the Walmart, the kind of the Spartan brand Nas Reed that we could get, but I would still be very happy with him. He's going to be 30 next year, and I feel like that contract isn't going to be nearly as large. It's probably going to be half that contract. But what do you guys think of Bobby?
Calling him Spartan brand, nasty work.
That contract part is enticing, though, like you said. It won't be as expensive as Nas. But personally, like kind of seeing how Bucks fans have reacted to him the last few years and just watching him, but the things that the Bucks fans hate about him, Pistons fans will love about him. Like how he takes 100 post-up shots a game, and sometimes it's like, man, kick that out. The Pistons actually do need that sometimes. Like they need an aggressive scorer next to Cade. So the things that the Bucks kind of hate about him, Detroit fans will be like, yeah, we need that because when Cade is off the ball or sometimes off the floor, we're kind of like, where's the offense coming from? And defensively, same questions I have like with like Nas. but even more questions because I haven't even seen Bobby be passable since like championship. And that was next to a peak Giannis defensively and Brook Lopez at his best defensively. So um, it depends on the
Oh,
price, honestly, and what you would have to give up. But I wouldn't be too pressed to get the Walmart Nas Reed. Can't lie to you.
and I'm not gonna lie. If you are gonna go out and get the Walmart Nas Reed, it better be on the clearance rack after he has a 25 game suspension for PEDs, which he said it was some mix up with his trainer, his doctor, giving him a medication that was on the ban list, all that stuff, whatever. You have been in this league for too damn long. You know how fickle the league is with that stuff. You got to be like, at a certain point, you are too old to know that you have to be 100% sure that what you're putting in your body is a-okay. And you know, as much as that's on the medical team that's helping him, that's also on the player.
Yeah, that's one of those things where culturally is that kind of what the Pistons want to bring in. But I also think at the same time, we've seen how JB Bickerstaff can turn these veterans that kind of look like they're on their last legs-ish into immediate starters that in the next year could gain some serious interest from contenders again or get a bigger contract like Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris especially. Bobby Portis could be another one of those guys. So he might be 30. We might have seen the worst from him in the past year, too. But I am fully confident in this coaching staff to be able to bring it out and have him fit into this system while he can still play the game that he plays.
That's a good point about JB. That's a good point.
I know.
Would you rather have Bobby Portis at 4 years, 80 million, or Brock Purdy at 4 years, 180 million? There's the sports question of the day.
Yeah, that Purdy, I like him too, but man, that was, yeah.
Yeah, that.
Of all the bags given out, that was sure one of them.
Yeah, that was something.
You got to pay the QB, and it's so hard to find that position and do it right, but at the same time, the Shanahan system, it helps Purdy be Purdy. So if he was anywhere else.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Real quick, I know we got to move on, or we're going to be here for 2 hours, but I will say, I thought that Purdy would like kind of reset the market in terms of bringing it back to normal. I thought that the 49ers would take a stance and kind of say, we're not paying you 50. We're going to give you 40, 45 a year. Because honestly, a quarterback that's in the middle shouldn't really be getting paid at top money. But like you said, quarterback is so valuable. I get it. But yeah.
Same annual value as Jared Goff. I don't know about that.
That's a tough one. I guess the age is on his side, but I mean, when you're a quarterback and you can play till you're 38, 39, age doesn't matter. We heard all the Bo Nix conversations about he's old, he played for 7 years in college, 6 years in college. He's going to be dust. And look at what he did. He put up, I mean, if there wasn't a Jaden Daniels, we'd be talking about Bo Nix in a whole different light. But I digress from that point. If we're considering Bobby Portis like the Charmander and Nas Reed, the Charizard, the Charmeleon, Santi Aldama, anyone? Just kind of the middle there. Is Santi Aldama the Santi Aldama of Nas Reed's?
What a sentence. Is Santi Aldama the Santi Aldama of Nas Reed?
Okay, I'm trying to be hip. You know, the hello fellow kids. You know, that's like the Buscemi meme holding the skateboard. That's how I felt with that. Anyways.
Salutations, fellow youth. He's an intriguing prospect. He's a nice player. When I get to Memphis players and Memphis products, I kind of get a little apprehensive just because of the fact that they're almost kind of like Miami in the sense of like they find these guys out of nowhere that play really well in their system and in their kind of like within their ecosystem. Also, he's going to be a restricted free agent, and I would think as a younger player with not quite sure what they're going to do with John Morant, but I think he's probably one of those guys that they're going to keep around in some fashion to play alongside for the future. But I mean, listen, man, he's 6'11" with a 6'11" wingspan. What's not to like about that? He's someone who has quite a bit of variety to his game. The word of the day, versatility and size, and he's got both of those in droves. So I mean, if the opportunity were to present itself, it's certainly an interesting prospect. And if that's someone that Trajan were to go out and target, that certainly fits the mold and the profile of the type of players that he would want to bring in. But at the same time, if I were the Memphis Grizzlies and I had him on a restricted free agency, I'd probably have a pretty hard time letting him walk.
Yeah. I do feel like Jake LaRavia getting shipped out earlier in the season was kind of the writing on the wall is like we're gonna keep Aldama. And recently though, I was talking to some of my friends, they were asking me what's my favorite player archetype, and I was telling them I love like players that's my size dominating the NBA because I just respect that so much because it's like, man, you only this tall and you one of the best players in the league. But on the flip side, I also said that's just my preference. I ain't winning basketball. All our players that can dribble, pass, and shoot, you just gotta have them. Now Dama fits that to a T. He can shoot the ball, attack closeouts, make the right decision. Detroit doesn't really have a lot of players offensively that can do that. They kind of got some players that can like attack the rim, some players that can guard. There's not really a lot of complete offense or just complete players in general. And Aldama he isn't a godly defender, but he's in the right place a lot of the time. So it always goes back to the contract, how much you're willing to pay these guys. But whatever you are willing to pay him, no, Memphis will probably match it to be honest, because
Yeah.
he's a good team player and stuff. So, but
Yeah,
I,
He
I would
probably
like I would like targeting him.
he probably fits the timeline the best of these guys just because of his age. He's only 24 years old. And, you talk about a runway to play alongside a Cade and and an Ivy and a Duran. That's a pretty long runway if he can stay healthy. But yeah, I mean, when you're in the restricted free agency market, that is a very tricky game to play because, you do not dictate what the outcomes are.
Yeah, it's very tough as well because, like you were mentioning, he fits the timeline, but he's also raw. And when he's a restricted free agent, you have to put in a lot of money to get him. And if you put in that money, and if it doesn't work, that is instantly a negative contract, instantly something that's going to hurt you in the future. Unless you do some front-loaded BS like poison pill contract, stuff like that. Interesting topics we could go into there. Any other points on this dude?
No, not really. He's going back to Memphis.
Yeah, it feels like a very obvious point here. And the rest of the list, I will say, isn't super enticing. There's names in here that could kind of fit, but all of them feel like you're bringing them in to supplement for the loss of someone. And so there is an addition by subtraction. It's just a negative maybe, but maybe we could be wrong. Like I was saying with the JB point, though, he can pull the best out of these players. If he did it with Malik Beasley, if he did it with Tim Hardaway Jr., who's saying he couldn't do it with Karis LeVert?
Yeah, I think the most interesting name on here of the remaining names, just because of his production and as well as just his the culture that he brings. Steven Adams, I think, would certainly be an interesting player. Like he's just every young team that he's been a part of has been a team that he's uplifted, or has been a team where he's been able to go in and contribute as a leader, but also just as a just as a player as well. I'm not gonna lie. Am I saying this partially just because I would love to be in a media room and hear the quotes that comes out of Steven Adams' mouth? Absolutely, I would, because he's the best quote in the freaking league. But at the same time, like if in the event that you don't have a Paul Reed again, like that's probably as good of a third big as you can get, and that you're gonna get solid rebounding and really good size down low. Yeah. So at the very least, he's an interesting name. But yeah, it's when you're talking about like the options that the Pistons have in free agency, like when their main priority is going to be trying to bring back the guys that they have, there's not really a whole lot of wiggle room to work with, but it just shows that like, the Pistons are suddenly going to be more of a player than they were in years past because they actually look like a pretty tantalizing option for veterans or players around the league. Like guys are going to want to play with Cade Cunningham. That's a real thing.
Yep. And it's going to be those key rotational players, I think, as well. Like they're all going to want to flock here. And some of them that would say, I want to go to a contender. I mean, we're seeing what New York in Indiana is doing right now. It's not Boston. It's not Cleveland. Who's to say Detroit isn't on that path to being what Indiana is? Because me personally, at his best, I think Cade Cunningham is a better player than Tyrese Halliburton. So if you get him a co-star, think about them on that trajectory with a little bit more spice on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Steven Adams as replacing
Yeah.
B-Ball Paul. Steven Adams is a starter in the NBA. So it's like if he's your third big man, just the leadership. He's played with Russ. He's played with just a lot of great play. KD played with a lot of great players. So just having Steven Adams, especially on the cheap side, I would do a lot for just the culture. Like he clearly fits the Detroit, grit and grind type stuff. Not
Yeah.
not grit and grind, but the blue collar work ethic and stuff. But Trendon Watford was on that list. He is decent. Not a game changer or anything like that. I'm with you guys. He will be a player who is coming in to kind of supplement the loss of, say, Hardaway if we can't keep him, or Beasley or something. Obviously, not the shooter that they are, but he is a bucket. And I did enjoy him trash talking Tyrese Halliburton in the beginning of the season. He was like, you guys were a playoff team. Y'all was double teaming me. I don't know. I just enjoyed that. Just a lot of players go at Halliburton, and I mean, Wofford had a good game. He had like 30 that game. So not, like I said, not a game changer, but he is a player that I do like to watch. Like when he got it going, he is a bucket, and it's cool to watch.
Yeah.
He's an intrigue.
Sorry,
Go
you
ahead,
go
Leggy,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just okay. I'll just say something short and real quick. Like he's also one of those raw players where you have to be careful what you give him because if it doesn't work, that's kind of a
Yeah.
tough contract. But I'll also say
Oh yeah.
he's not coming in and going to be a high role player right away. Like he's going to get impactful, meaningful minutes, but you're not counting on him for 25, 30 minutes because you have players in those positions. It just feels like a fit where, I mean, yes, he'd kind of be replacing kind of what a Tim Hardaway Jr. minute-wise, but different positions like shooting guard to power forward. So it's how would he
Right.
fit within what we have, especially with Asar got some of those backup minutes with power forward when he was in, and Ron Holland even stretched there. So what does it mean for that small forward, power forward rotation if you bring him in? So that was my point. So like,
Yeah.
Sean, do you have any input on that?
Yeah, I was just
sorry,
gonna
Brennan.
say,
Oh yeah, real quick though, Sean, before you go, just to kind of piggyback off that point about Wofford, I would say regular season wise, maybe he could take Fontecchio minutes.
Mm,
Fontecchio kind of gave you nothing this season. He kind of didn't even space the floor. Teams at a point were kind of like, yeah, we're not really worried about him. He could kind of just come in and just be a spark plug scoring wise. But like I agree 100%. He is not coming in getting 25 minutes a game and stuff. But
yeah,
yeah,
Brennan,
that's
that
all
was
I
a
have for that.
that was a really good point about the Fontecchio, and it's sad because I thought Fontecchio would be a key piece in this offense this year, and when we got him, I thought he would be a key piece going forward. But you're right; those minutes were evaporated in the playoffs. Didn't sniff the floor, so you put a Watford in that position. That makes a lot more sense for what you were wanting from Fontecchio with better defense, and even if the shot isn't falling, he's not a great shooter, but he's gotten better every single year. So he can instantly slot in and be that key defender. And imagine a lineup of Ron, Asar, Watford, Stu, and you put that with Cade. I mean, that's just an elite defensive crew right there.
yeah, what I was gonna say is, to me, like with Watford, he's one of those guys where he's an intriguing role player who's able to go in and contribute on a scrappy Nets team that didn't have a whole lot of expectations. He's one of those guys, and I'm curious how he performs on a team
Winning
that,
basketball.
yeah, a team that has more defined expectations, but a more defined hierarchy as well. Whereas in Brooklyn, it was kind of a wild, wild west, a lot of maneuvering, adjustments, and the roster changing as the season goes on. So guys have a little bit, have a little bit more of a freedom that they can play with, so to speak. Whereas in Detroit, it's like you are coming in on a team with a very clear number one, with a very clear hierarchy of who's running things and when. And, you're coming in also now, like, as we're going to talk about it later in the show, like, you're coming in with elevated expectations. So,
For sure.
you were on a, like, don't get me wrong, like, Brooklyn was like a fun story last season too, but with
Yeah.
all due respect, who's watching Brooklyn Nets games? Like the Pistons are going to have some nationally televised games next season now, man. They're going to be
Oh yeah.
one of the spotlight teams, young spotlight teams of the league.
Yeah,
And so, not to say that he can't handle it. Obviously, a lot of these guys are solid, but it's just, it's kind of like this is where it gets a little bit more nitpicky, and where you really have to be smart with the money that you're going to be spending, because you have some real financial decisions right around the corner.
Yeah, and Sean, that was a good point about talking about the national TV games. We're going to get more into that in your segment because like, yeah, just easily early sneak peek. Like, I do think the Pistons are going to be one of the best teams in the East next year.
Very well could be.
So, guys, anything else on this list? Any names on here you really want to dig into? There's a few more.
I thought the Quentin Grimes shout out was funny.
Yeah, the Quentin Grimes.
Oh, yeah.
Because he did have a great year, and you could utilize what he could give you based on what he did in Philly. But to think that people are talking about that being a makeup move for what they did already with Tim Hardaway, but I would not take that trade back in any sort of way, because what Tim Hardaway was able to bring as a role player, he fit exactly what we needed.
Yeah, all these hindsight GMs, I don't get. I'm sorry, Brent. I was just going to say, I don't get what these hindsight GMs want. Like, Tim Hardaway Jr. came in and played really good basketball for them.
Yep.
Like, hit shots at a pretty high clip. He was one of their best playoff performers this season. He was one of their lead charge takers this season. Like, he came in, like, did he blow off the doors? Absolutely not. But like, if you thought Quentin Grimes was going to be what he showed at the end of that season, you're lying.
Yeah, that's a bad Philly team.
You're lying.
That's what I was gonna say about Grimes. I think that he showed that he has game, but he also showed he needs the ball to rock out like that.
Yeah.
Like if Quentin Grimes if he has to stand in a corner like he would with Cade and Ivy, I don't think that he's end of the season Philly Grimes with a team with aspirations to win some rounds next year or so.
Yeah, can I copy and paste that onto number 6 on this list, Cam Thomas?
Now, Cam Thomas.
See, I do think he's better because he's shown it more on a consistent level, and he's put up those historic point scoring totals.
Yeah.
But I was more talking about the point of, we know you can play on a team like the Nets. What happens when you go to a team looking for home court advantage in the playoffs?
Also, dear
like you
God,
said,
can Cam Thompson play 2 minutes without the basketball in his hands? Good Lord. Can he not dribble for 23 of the 24 seconds on the shot clock? Like, this is the one on the list where I'm just like, I'm sorry, Hunter. Yeah. I love you, but no.
Well, it depends on the market though, because like Leggy said about Nas Reed being a super six man, that's actually the perfect role for Cam Thomas. If you have Cam Thomas on your roster and you say just go score the ball, like honestly, come in the game, come again for Cade, don't do nothing else, just go score. That's when he's at his best. So, Sean, like you said, can he have 2 minutes without dribbling the ball? No, he cannot. That is his game, and he has defined that game for the past. This would be his 5th year in the league. At LSU, he was a bucket like this. We've heard stories about him playing one-on-one with KD and Kyrie, holding his own. Like, he is just a flat-out scorer. He is not in the business of making guys better. And is that winning basketball? If you're the star player, I will argue no. But if you're in that Jordan Clarkson role, I would say it can have some value if you're not the guy on the team. If you're a 6-man, it has value.
I love that Jordan Clarkson comp.
Knicks Celtics score update, by the way.
Yes, please.
Just Knicks 92, Boston 53.
Dear God.
With a minute to go in the third quarter. The Celtics have their entire bench out there playing, and the New York Knicks have 4 of their 5 starters in the most Tom Thibodeau fashion humanly possible.
Sound about right.
Yep. Which, hey, maybe Tom's just looking out for my parlay. That's what I like to think. 3 out of the 4 legs hit. We just need Brunson to score 30. So once we get there, then you can take him out.
How much you got now?
He got 18. So yeah, it's not going to hit. Don't worry. I've already accepted it. We're already at the acceptance stage. If it does, that would be awesome.
Cool.
But like,
yeah,
great. But like, at the very least,
for you though, bro.
Yeah, I did also bet the Knicks at -2.5. Something told me they were going to win by more than 2.5, and I think they're going to win more by 2.5. And don't worry, Leggy. Sarcasm alert.
Okay, thank you. Okay, enough of your shit, Sean, Brennan. You didn't do anything, but enough of your shit too, man. Hunter Patterson, this was a great article, and if you haven't checked him out, he has really done great work. And like I mentioned, James Edwards was a really big staple. I think Hunter Patterson is really able to hold his own in that regard, putting out great content. And the last thing I want to say is, when you're talking about people who are close to the organization, making lists like these and talking about specific players, there's a reason why these players get brought up. It's different than if I went and wrote an article and said, this is my gut feeling on who the Pistons should get. They should go and get Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Giannis Antetokounmpo. No, that's not happening. These are names that are grounded in reality. So always think about that when you're reading content from established people who have ears and eyes in the organization. These are names that are really realistic and we'll probably be hearing more about.
Yeah, Hunter Patterson's not only is he one of the best reporters we have on the beat for the Pistons, he's just one of the best people. Yeah. And to Leggie's point, these are the guys that have the finger on the pulse of the team. So anyone who's going out making mock trades for Zion Williamson, I think it says a lot that the people who actually cover the team haven't said a damn thing